Welcome to the in-depth analysis of Fall 2023-04, the first tag map in the series. The map can be divided into 4 sections: the start, the first drift, the second drift, and the ending. But before we actually drift the turns, we start off by driving the map with releasing the acceleration button instead. This way, a sub 24 second time is comfortably achievable while gaining an initial understanding of the racing lines. These will remain similar in future runs, as the map itself is pretty straightforward, but very hard to max out. Similar to map 03, a diagonal approach in the start increases traction and therefore gains a small speed advantage. For now, focus on not gaining any airtime when driving onto the sausage block. Later on, try to stay as low as possible. Generally, driving uphill always reduces acceleration, while downhill increases it. This is also the case for sausage blocks, with the bump in the middle being considered a tiny hill. While the speed difference is minimal, this is always a good thing to keep in mind on sausage maps. The white car already executes this pretty well. To set up for the upcoming turn, use gentle inputs to switch to the left side and start steering to the right around the middle of these signs. Release a decent amount and avoid the penalty grass for the most part. A slight touch can help to adjust the angle for an easier setup into the next turn. Here, a lineup as far right as possible is essential and will become one of the main challenges for later runs. The unusual shape of the turn can feel slightly unintuitive as it requires a wide entry to gain most of the speed. For now, release as much as necessary and edge closer towards the optimal line. Enter the second sausage part to the right to avoid airtime for the second time. The resulting exit speed provides the biggest time gain potential on the map and will snowball into the finish. Tight turns, as well as staying as low as possible, referring to the previously mentioned rule, are not yet as important as staying to the left to eliminate the airtime. The lines on the second run stay the same, with only the second release turn being substituted by a drift. If you're a newer player and struggle with executing the drifts regularly, focus on this one first, as it is the more important one. Instead of tightening the line by reducing speed via release, the angle is adjusted by tapping the brake. The less time spent braking, the more speed is kept and will snowball into the finish. But first, let's take a short look at drifting, as this never has been part of an in-depth analysis before. Similar to other surfaces, steering a certain amount into one direction will lead to a slide out. The speed of when this will happen depends on the grip on the surface. In the case of tarmac, sliding out of full grip only starts to happen at 600 plus speeds. To reduce this required speed to around a minimum of 190, tapping or holding brake will push the front wheels to loosen grip and into a slide. The higher the speed, the lower the required steering input to start sliding, again comparable to other surfaces. On lower speeds, as it is the case with 04, more steering is necessary before tapping brake to loosen the grip. If this momentum is not enough beforehand, the car will end up in a no-slide instead of a drift. The window is about 0.5 to 0.3 seconds before pressing brake, but again becomes even smaller depending on speed. This will be the tricky part about drifting and requires some practice to get used to. The Trackmania school road campaigns are highly recommended to improve. Once a slide is entered, it can be extended by pressing brake additional times or tightened by releasing the accelerate button. The sooner into a turn this happens, the more resulting exit speed. Back to our run. Due to exit speed being especially relevant on this map, braking as early as possible while refraining from later adjustments is important. The earlier the brake, the sooner the car can return to full grip and start accumulating extra speed for the rest of the map. While this run executes a single continuous tap, multiple rapid adjustments are also possible. Aim to start braking around the CP after swerving to the right like in the first run. Remember to already build momentum to the left before hitting the brake. The rest of the run remains the same compared to the previous one, with a bit tighter ending. While the actual angle largely depends on the speed, a couple of visual cues can make the final turn less blind. After the checkpoint, aim for the first sign here and start steering to the left when entering the shadow. The lower the speed, the later the steering input. For the next run, we will also integrate the first drift, which is the easier of the two. While the start remains the same, the setup to the left of the sausage is extra important. The same concepts as in the second one apply, with exit speed not quite being as influential. In fact, if the car is not slowed down enough, a proper setup for the second turn becomes impossible, losing time overall. This run is cleaning up the second drift a bit more, keeping additional speed towards the finish. The rest of the map remains the same. Our fourth run cleans up both drifts but gains a tiny bit of airtime when entering the second sausage. Exiting the drift, a very precisely timed steering input to the right has to be performed to keep the maximum speed. Whereas on lower speeds, this is fairly simple to perform, the higher speeds will make this the crux of the map. Resulting airtime loses quite some time until the end of the map and will be more obvious in the final comparison. For the fifth and final comparison, we will take a look at Isfu's run. While tiny optimizations in the start of the map exist, the deciding factor is all about the exit speed in the second drift, followed by no airtime into the uphill and an early fifth gear. Once this happens, the nerves have to be kept under control to execute the final turns into the finish. Finally, we compare all the runs combined, showing the progression and advantages of drifting. Thank you everybody for watching. If you have any feedback or questions, feel free to leave me a comment or head over to my Twitch at twitch.tv/SaPure7. See you next time.